Peace and greetings, everyone. Peace and greetings to the person for whom this reading is intended. I'm just going to jump right into it because I'm set up and ready to go. I come today seeking information, wisdom in regards to a past life. And I want to show you that I'm using the Wild Unknown Tarot deck. I come today seeking wisdom and information for one who wants to know details about a past life. No specific past life, but a general past life. May the roads of truthful, honest communication be open, and may I be a conduit of that information. Really need to turn those notifications off. Or I wish I could get them to sound like a gong or something else. Then they wouldn't seem so intrusive. Now, if I was just doing a smaller card spread, I would have took all 4 or 5 of those cards that just fell out. And that would have been the reading. But since this is a past life reading, it's going to have 14 cards in it, and so I'm just gonna put those back in the deck and reshuffle. Okay, shuffle one more time. All right. Hey, the cards say shuffle one more time. I'm gonna shuffle them one more time. Now I will cut my deck. 1, 2, now we are ready to pull. That is the first card. My little cloth here is not exceptionally large, so I'm gonna have to moderate this space. Yeah, I'm not gonna have enough space here. Ooh. Let's do this. We're gonna turn it this way. I'm not changing the order of the cards. I'm just rearranging them so I can have more room. That's 7, 8, 9, 10, and then I'll draw the last 4 here. 1. Okay, can you see them? I want you to be able to see these. is your past life spread. I'm going to turn these cards over and then I will look into them and see what they have to say. Okay, so I'm going to flip the cards over and we'll see what we've got here. Oh, okay. That's the High Priestess card. Daughter of Pentacles. Five of Pentacles. Judgment. Devil. The Devil card. Not always a bad card. I don't really consider it a bad card. You know, it's balance. It's the other part of life. It's what some people may refer to as the lower self, if you believe in that sort of thing. Lower self, higher self. It's just like any other form of light. They're all the same material, just different vibrations, different degrees of light, if you will. So what I am doing right now is turning over the cards that I just pulled for this past life reading so we can get a look at what's going on with this past life. And I want you to see that I'm turning the cards over. I'm not picking any cards to give you a specific type of reading. I'm just pulling the cards and giving you the information that I am being given here. And once I go into the interpretation, I'll give a closer look at the cards so you'll be able to see them in detail. There we go. Okay, so here we are with your past life reading. I took a moment to rearrange everything so it would look better on the camera. I haven't changed the order or orientation of anything. I just wanted to arrange them so you can see the layout as it should be. And we have 14 cards in total, with each card representing a specific aspect of this particular past life. Today's date is January 17th, 2017. These cards were pulled at 3:33 p.m. That was purely by serendipity and was not done intentionally. Current moon phase and sign is waning crescent in Libra. Okay, in this first card we have here is the High Priestess card. Okay, this card talks about the basic soul nature of you coming into this life. This is a pretty clear indicator that you were a spiritually connected woman in the past life. The cards are showing us today. The High Priestess is a major arcana card, and it represents the archetype of the divine feminine. Okay, so in this card we can see a majestic and regal looking white tiger that is situated comfortably underneath the night sky, which is also filled with stars and a waning crescent moon. The black backdrop against the white of the surface upon which the tiger sits is reminiscent of the traditional Rider-Waite High Priestess card, in which she sits between two pillars, one black that represents the darkness and a white pillar that represents the light. We can see the tiger sitting comfortably between these two, the darkness and the light, and she is the epitome of balance and poise. You can also see a crystal ball at her feet, which symbolizes her direct access to knowledge and wisdom through intuition, which is represented by the moon. The number of this card is 2, which symbolizes the essence of creativity, the womb, and all parts associated with growth and development. In this past life, dreams and intuition were very important to you. You swore by it and you lived by it, and you gained much useful information from the study of your dreams and heeding your intuitive nudges. Perhaps you were even a poet or a writer who drew inspiration from everything that the universe communicated to you. This is probably a time of change and growth, a life that was not necessarily stable, because again, the number 2 is about growth and development and not remaining static and unchanging. So that's the High Priestess card. Okay, then we have the second card, which talks about your environment. And what we have here is the Daughter of Pentacles. In this card, we see a deer, a doe, a female deer. She's standing upon a field, which is this, and she's underneath a rainbow with a pentacle directly over her head. Pentacles is a suit that symbolizes wealth in all forms, though it's usually something tangible like money and stuff, stuff that money can buy. So the environment around you was wealthy, though not without a share of hard work. In general, this was a place that was on its way up the ladder, so to speak, where the people valued information, education, and entrepreneurship. Somewhere that somebody who was enterprising and determined could really pull themselves up by their own bootstraps, so to speak. Okay. The third card we have here represents your early years, and this is the 5 of Pentacles. See the number 5 and then 5 Pentacles. It really looks like somebody's wearing a necklace and holding a dying rose in front of them. Okay, so despite the growing prosperity that your overall environment experienced, this 5 of Pentacles indicates that your early years were a time of financial hardship, and that presented a challenge to your family. Unfortunately, this card also indicates a time of misfortune and lack, which could include poverty, illness, and solitude. My intuition is telling me that this card was about your family unit as a whole. So you guys still had each other, but there really was no help or resources for the difficulty that you guys faced together. You all were isolated together, if that makes sense, as were other families of this time who fell upon hardship and struggled to make their entrance into the world of prosperity and abundance. Okay? Okay, and we have your 4th card here, which is Judgment reversed. Okay, and this represents your education. Again, with this card, we see the battle of the balance between the darkness and light. Darkness here, light here. And it's basically the essence of judgment, which is weighing the realities of both the darkness and the light and making a decision between the two. Due to the financial obstacles you and your family faced, you were not able to receive the absolute quote-unquote best education that your parents wanted for you, and you allowed this to make you extremely critical of yourself for some reason, even though they tried to give you the best of what they had. I don't intuit that you faulted them in any way for the hardships, but somehow you developed a sense that if you didn't get what was considered the best, that you would somehow be unable of living a good life, that you would be less than deserving of it, and you didn't really realize or understand all the life lessons that lay before you. You were incredibly unhappy about all of it, and without that so-called best education, you felt you would always be at the mercy of those who did have it. Always subservient, always serving. And at this point in the past life, you didn't realize the power that you had to change your own destiny. This anger and frustration worked the effect of making you a bit headstrong and not one who easily learned from her mistakes. Somebody who's always on the go, who had very little time for self-reflection and assessment. So you did receive an education, but not necessarily one that was up to whatever your standard of best was at that time. But in all actuality, it was something good for you because there were lessons in it for you. Okay. So this next card here represents your accomplishments. And this is the Devil card. It is reversed. The good news about this card is that you did eventually overcome those personal obstacles mentioned before. As this again is the Devil card reversed, and it symbolizes a triumph of the higher self over the lower self. In all truth, I believe that there is just one self. There is no higher or lower. Again, like the different colors, they're just different degrees of light. It's all light. It's just a different color. So it's all you. Okay? But this is about that higher nature, quote unquote higher nature, triumphing over the lower nature. And eventually, likely through some sort of crisis, because that's usually how these things happen, you came to yourself and, you realized that you didn't want to continue living the sort of life you were leading internally or externally. And, mentally, emotionally, mentally and emotionally, you came to a realization about the destructive nature of the thoughts that you were thinking, that you were allowing to have room in your headspace. And so you decided to do something about it. You did have to battle a lot with your inner fears and anxieties, so you can break yourself free from the oppressive chains that those type of thoughts will put on you, and to break yourself free from the type of bad habits that housing those type of thoughts will cause. This card tells me that you overcame your attachment to some things that you thought were once so important, like having a quote-unquote proper education, having money, having status, which allowed you in turn to have a heightened perspective. This is what first brought you to the place of getting acquainted with your intuition. And it's not to say that you no longer cared about education or not being poor, but you no longer let the fact of those things define your existence. In other words, you looked around and decided that you would live in spite of everything that said you would not. And my intuition is telling me that you came to appreciate the situation you were born into for all of the valuable lessons that it taught you and the strength in yourself that it helped you to realize. So the Devil card is not so bad. A lot of people get scared of it, think it means something terrible. It's really not that bad. Okay, so we have come to the Ace of Swords. And this card, I'm going to try to keep my hand steady. This card represents your occupation. This is the Ace of Swords reversed. So this card is telling me that you were in an occupation that didn't allow you to fully utilize the mental powers of logic and reason that came naturally to you. Throughout history, in many cultures, women were not always allowed to hold certain positions due to erroneous beliefs, that they were incapable or unfit to hold. This tells me that this life has likely occurred in some culture where women were not highly valued for their intuitive powers and direct connection to the divine feminine. It's likely in early United States, based on the second card here, again, which shows that it was a society or culture that was on the upswing, not fully established, but well on its way. Positions that were common to many women at this time would have been things like cooking, cleaning, childcare, and of course your parents wanted you to have a better life than they did, and you wanted that for yourself. But even with all of your ambition and desires, you still had to live within that society that you were a part of. And again, this was not a time or a place that looked upon women favorably. Sure, there were people sprinkled here and there who had some sense enough to know that little girls and women are just people like anybody else, but overall, the tone of thought was that women were not fit to think and make decisions regarding anything beyond what happens inside the home. True indeed, some women did flourish as homemakers, but there were others like you who had their sights set on loftier goals. My intuition tells me that you wanted to be a writer and or maybe a philosopher, someone who talked and wrote about their thoughts and the thoughts of others. Okay, so now we come to card number 7, which talks about your social status. This is the Ten of Swords reversed. Unfortunately, this is another card that indicates hardship for you during this particular past life. The good news is that it did come to an end, even if it was painful. The number of this card is 10, which symbolizes beginnings, and these only come from endings, right? So the poverty we saw in the previous card makes a turnaround as seen by this Ten of Swords. Life was hard, but you applied yourself and you chose not to dwell on all the things around you that were upsetting and difficult. You moved through it, however painful it was, and you gathered some important life lessons on the way. Okay. So we did have a few cards that were a little hard to look at, but the rest of it kind of makes a turnaround. Okay, so here we have the relationships card. This is the Ace of Wands. And so what it tells me is that a driving force for you throughout this past life were the relationships that you had. Those with your family and with friends that you acquired along the way. These relationships proved to be very inspiring for you. And outside of your family, you met some other very passionate thinkers like yourself who encouraged you to fight the good fight, as they say. You drew upon them for inspiration and for comfort, something like what we get when we observe a fire, when we sit next to it, which is the element that this suit of wands represents. And these relationships were very helpful to your personal development, as we can see by the flower buds that sprout forth from the branch. This card shows me that at times you were a bit restless and uncertain, but you never lost your inner spark. You kept at it and you began to rely even more upon your intuition and sense of inner guidance, which helped you to realize your potential and put those creative energies to use. Okay. The 9th card we have here is the 6 of Wands. Okay. And remember how we saw in the 10 of Wands reversed that the situation did turn around for you and your family? This card is pretty much confirming that. It's a card of success, and we can see this beautiful blue and green butterfly here escaping the chaos of the mess of 6 beneath it. You were successful in achieving your goals, and you and your family reaped the benefits of it. This card indicates that though the external situation was a bit chaotic in the beginning, you and your family never lost sight of what was important, which was being good to each other and being with each other. Again, you had lots of support from your family, and you stayed close to them well into your adult years. You never moved from home, and you did not marry. Okay, and let's see, we're coming upon the 10th card, which is representing your death in this past life. This is the, what is this? This is the 3 of Wands reversed. And as with the last card, we learned that you didn't leave home. I have to say, it wasn't for lack of desire or trying, though. It just never happened. This was one of your many long-term goals that did not come to fruition. And it's not to say that you didn't accomplish much, because you did, but being the creative thinking philosopher that you were, you wanted to do so much. At times, with all of the thought activity that you had, you would get a little overwhelmed or swamped in your thinking and planning and preparation, so much so that actualization of certain things never happened. At the end, you died while dealing with an unscrupulous business partner who was never really fully invested in your dream, even though they told you they were. And they were actually only out for their own material gain. Proper planning, risk assessment, realistic goal setting, those type of things could have helped you avoid that altogether. You didn't die alone or penniless, but again, there were some hiccups due to this bad business partner and your lack of proper planning, risk assessment, and realistic goal setting. Okay. And so now we come to the 11th card, which represents lessons that you learned in your past life. This is the Ace of Pentacles reversed. This card indicates that you learned how to manage money. Okay. With the poor financial state you experienced, you learned the value of proper money management. You also got onto the path of learning about proper planning to achieve a desired outcome. And ultimately, you learn that money isn't everything and that there are things in life more valuable than wealth. Okay. And here's another lesson that you learned. This is the Ace of Cups reversed. With this card, we see that you learned the value of keeping your emotions in balance. Your emotional health was a big concern to you, and this card shows that you began to realize that you needed to pay as much attention to it, if not more, than you did to the other parts of your life, like your career. Okay. Okay. So here we have the Six of Cups, and this card represents how this past life currently affects you. This card is upright. This is a card of nostalgia, of happiness, and generosity. We can see the roots below, giving life to the tree above. You may have a tendency to dwell in the past because of all the fond memories of it that you have. Maybe a great childhood, or perhaps parts of it that you do remember fondly. Maybe loved ones who have transitioned that you think about daily. You must know that these are always with you, and you only need to reach out to them to make contact. Your ancestors are with you always. The thing is, while you are looking back and reliving those days gone by, you must not forget to be in the present and fully appreciate where that past has brought you to. And if you happen to not like where you are right now, then you know that you have to change it. And you have to know that you have the power to do so. If you are seeking guidance, your intuition is a great resource, as well as your ancestors and other loved ones who are no longer living on this earthly plane. Do you have a reunion or some other event coming up? Are you planning one? This card would seem to indicate so, and also maybe an old lover or two will pop up. It's okay to feel whatever feelings you have in light of the reunion, and you should definitely give yourself the space to revel in the positive nostalgic memories. This card suggests that you may need to do some work with your inner child to identify certain strong feelings from the past that are still affecting you presently. You need to find some time to be playful, spontaneous, and creative. Get to know or get reacquainted with your authentic self. Okay, and this last card, which is the same as the card before it, talks more about how this past life affects you now. And this is the Mother of Swords. We can see a wise female owl sitting atop a sword, a blade. In this current life, you are independent. You are a quick thinker. You are perceptive and organized. All of these things you are bringing with you from this past life. You definitely have something to offer the world. You hold intellect in very high esteem, and people who do not exercise common sense around you are automatically on your bad side. And when I say bad side, I mean you can cut them up with those words, okay? So they know not to step incorrect to you again. You are not one to mince words or beat around the bush, as they say, and you are known to tell it exactly like it is. You're able to judge and discern impartially without the influence of emotions. But this can also make you come off as kind of cold and calculating. Some people cannot understand this because they are not this way. And, they need to realize it's not that you don't care about people. It's just that you relate to people through intellectual understanding rather than emotional understanding. It may be good to allow yourself to feel sometimes because that is a part of our experience in this world. That's how we can get an indication of what's really going on within us. But ultimately, you should continue to be independent in thought and judgment. Use your unbiased intelligence to create the life you desire and the life you deserve. Is there a difficult situation maybe or a difficult decision you're facing? If so, this card shows that you need not let emotions play a huge part in that decision or that situation, because they will cloud your judgment and stop you from seeing the reality of the choice you must make. And that has been your past life reading. Please feel free to find me on Facebook at I am Haley N. Smith or at Magic in Progress. I'm open to any questions or comments or concerns you have about the reading. And it was really cool to do this. I always love doing these. I'm always so excited to see how they turn out. If you have any questions, please let me know.